captures the essence of Castroville, and we've been using this as a foundation. And as the plans get drafted, as the rules get written, they're good measurements to bounce ideas back off of. Is this creating a safe, friendly environment? Is it, embracing this pioneering spirit? And so we've been having a lot of conversations over the last few days. There's a lot of ideas, and some people agree on things, some people don't agree on things, and that's the nature of communities and community building, and it's what makes places great as well. So this is the Design Rodeo summary. I said this last night, design land matters. Henry Castro laid this land out with very clear intentions, and it was very strategic in the way that they did it. They looked at the floodplains, they looked at the river, and they built this beautiful small block grid in the peninsula of the Medina River. It's like it gives the town a hug, if you will. It was really well thought out. They sprinkled parks throughout. They thought about where civic spaces go. They looked at view corridors. They thought about the integration of spaces along the river. And this is what we know and love as Castroville. These are the elements that really create this special environment. And the people that settled Castroville settled it in their own way. They settled it and they used the land to their own benefits. To make, there's a lot of open space, as y'all are well aware of. And so we really wanted to celebrate that. So getting in the comprehensive plan and the downtown planning, I apologize, this isn't very clear because of the sun, but we'll see these on the boards here. We started out by looking at your natural environment. And your natural environment has a lot of topography in and around these areas. And then there's these lower sloped areas where the development started to happen in a natural manner. We are in Flash Flood Alley. Flash Flood Alley goes from border to border throughout the state of Texas. And here we are, Medina, there we go.
Right at the tail.
Very at the tail. We're at the tail end of it. And it means you've got to be really mindful in your development patterns, and managing stormwater is really critical so you don't flood the town. And so what we want to do real quick is get some validation statements. These are the things we've heard over the last few days. There's been 77 people that have come through over the last 2 days providing input, and there's 138 that have been, is that correct?
155 online over the last
155 online, and so it's been really good input. But what we're hearing, we want to build using natural patterns. This is about the green print, when possible. We want to grow and preserve our open space with natural grades, tree cover within our various watersheds. Cluster development can preserve open spaces and corridors and green interconnecting to the surrounding city. Stormwater management is a must and needs to lead the development conversations. It's really fundamental as a starting place rather than doing it as an afterthought, which happens in a typical development process. The other thing that goes along with this is water resource management for drinking water, for actual water. And we think that that's an important element of Castroville. We then looked at your built patterns and analyzed the way that you all use the blocks in the buildings, and y'all built sprinkled all over the place, but there was a magic number that we found very early in our analysis, this 13887. These are the lot dimensions when you build out those blocks. Your blocks are 330 feet by 330 feet. You have 55.5 feet of right-of-way within those blocks, which creates a lot pattern that is a consistent lot pattern you find all over Castroville.
Excuse me. The right-of-ways are 42 feet. They're not 55. They're 15 varas. Do the math. They're 375 feet center to center. 333 feet and a 42-foot right-of-way.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to help you with that.
No, and then so the 13887 is something we heard very loud and clear. People wanted to maintain and retain this open space, and so we're working very hard to do that. And so the standards could emulate and carry those patterns forward. Oh man, this is not patterns where we like what we have and we like to preserve it. That's something that we've heard throughout Castroville, and I think a lot of people are nervous about this plan. Rightfully so. Change is scary, and it requires attention to detail. Infill development needs to be scaled to our existing development patterns, and we think that is really a critical component. It needs to match what you've got, and it can't overwhelm the town because it will change the characteristics of the town. New developments need to be consistent with existing patterns, built in small block grids or with a variety of building or placement types. And the 3 development patterns are representative of new developments that we'd like to see. If you haven't been here yet, we'll be sharing those, and they're over here, and we'll actually go over this with you. And then save our large lots to keep our natural feel in Castroville. You need to hold the button down, just like, just hold that down and see if it'll play a power cycle. When we started analyzing Castroville, there's 13,000 acres that are vacant in Castroville's ETJ and city limits in totality. And that's under today's standards. There are a few of these acres that are allocated for developments that are in the works, going through development agreements right now that would be built. I apologize, we have maps of this, but we'll go around them as well. And so in order to do that, we actually came up with 3 types of areas that would be land use areas for Castroville. One would be area of stability. That's your downtown, this area. We're gonna stabilize this area, recode in what you've got, and call it a day. That does not mean it's isolated in amber. It's not possible to do that. We are in the state of Texas, people have property rights, and they have the ability to develop their property. The goal, though, is to write the standards and the tools around the patterns that you have so that when and if someone does build on a vacant infill lot, it's not a McMansion, or it's not overwhelming the community next door, that it has a certain lot coverage percentage that's small, like the way that you all have built now, so that the lot patterns can keep in context with the existing ones. We next designated an area of change. It's right on the other side of Castroville, across the bridge. I don't understand, it won't power cycle? You can't hold the power button. Man, I don't understand, that's so bizarre. Well, we have these maps thankfully out, and we'll walk around them. During this process, though, I mean, we are listening. There was a citizen that actually came in and said, you have this area marked as area of change, and it should be area of conservation. We sat back, we analyzed it, and we're like, you are absolutely correct. And citizens throughout the entire day have been validating this, that was a good change. And it was just on the opposite side of the river. And it's important to keep this for like water buffers, but it may not be appropriate to do a waterfront there. And so the community throughout the day said that they really would like to see that area directly adjacent to the river preserved as a conservation area rather than a growth area. And again, we'll look at these shortly here. Well, maybe we're gonna get back online here. Come on. Should we go now? Technology. My apologies, guys. The other thing that we've been working on is your downtown plan, and throughout your downtown plans, you all have been doing a lot of planning, and a lot hasn't come out of the plans. A lot of them got shelved. That also is the level of frustration we're sensing from the community, is that it wasn't getting accomplished, and they're done with doing planning exercises. We too saw this, and when we were interviewing for this, that was one of our questions to the community and the city. Are you really going to do this? Because if not, we too don't want to come here. We don't want to be a part of something that gets shelved. And we do think that y'all need to do this in a rapid way to get your tools in line so that your community can protect itself as growth happens here. So in all of your plans, y'all called for Paris Street to be the main street. And so we started to say, well, what would that look like? And how do you start to incrementally assemble these pieces back so that Paris Street can become that main street? So we have a wide variety of ideas here. Man, I've got to show through this process at the Castroville Dream-In site that it was still the appropriate street. Some people were like, oh, I like Houston Street better. Some were like Fiorella Street is the main street. And I believe, the way that it's building out, Fiorella and Paris both kind of will function as a main street, as y'all's main street as it goes into perpetuity.
I don't want to take away from that, but is it a section of Paris Street, or is it Paris Street from end to end?
Here you go, right here. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah. So this is the Paris Street here where it terminates back into 90.
Yes, sir.
And then it goes over here to the bridge here. Is that Amelia Street? Alamo, sorry,
Okay,
that's Alamo Street, yes. So that's the extent, and then here's Fiorella right here, coming in to this section. So there's the Magnolia Cafe, and into there. And so the goal was to see how they could start to incrementally assemble Paris Street. Maybe it's done through brick pavers, and so these are trying to create pavement sections. One of the other things that we did, you know, and we really did listen, Houston Square, when we first showed up, we drew buildings on it. We uniformly heard no buildings, and so we were like, oh, okay, we got them all off. All of our first designs had open air markets and, you know, different designs for facilitating your markets that could be semi-permanent structures, but open at the bottom. And unanimously, the community said, no, we don't want that. So what we did try to do is to incorporate a design here that would just landscape it. And so that was kind of one of the ideas. This was the early one that we drew at first, and they were like, no. And so we came back and we got this design, and then we did one more design where we tried to tie into the church and a plaza. And so over the few days, we've actually been hearing a lot of positive input about defining these spaces and creating identifiable spaces within this. And this is kind of looking into, oops, I'm sorry. And as we've been doing this, I'm gonna go back to this one. Here's a view looking down into the square of what it could look like. And you know, here's St. Louis Church right here in the foreground. And so you're looking bird view down into that rendering that we drew. So you can kind of see how this would start to come to life. And what it's doing is it's forming a street edge so that your street edge and your curb lines emulate the same curb lines that you've got on the opposite sides. Right now it's a continuous curb cut without any definition of space. So that was one of the ideas. And today we were listening to people saying, well, we double parked there. This is not how it's kind of used. So we went back and just started drawing. We're like, what if, you know, we did something different? So our engineer was sitting here drawing. Is like, okay, well, you could have them double park in the same context. This is rough. We did it today, like right at 5:30, as you know, things wrapped up. This is a car like parallel. Here's your double parked cars. And one of the ideas is that within these areas, you can have these swells, bioswells, that would allow for stormwater to enter the ground there. So you start doing stormwater management within this area, and then within the tree wells, it can start filtering the water. You could even have catchment basins there that would actually be used for irrigation. And y'all had a gentleman in town that is like a stormwater expert who worked for the federal government doing stormwater management. Patrick, I can't think of his last name. Connor. He was so informative, and so he helped us kind of just brainstorm through these ideas, and we think it's very viable. And so we're still tweaking this, and these items are, you know, up for conversation still. So, anyways, that's looking into it. One of the other things the community asked us to do, or the city did, was the city owns the public works yard on Paris Street. And so we were asked to draw some scenarios of redevelopment plans there. Two of them preserve, and we understand this is a private lot. We preserved the private lot here, and there's a house from the 1800s here that is a historic home. It's in pretty rough shape right now. But it could be upgraded and integrated as a community center. It could remain as a private residence, or it could, you know, there's a lot of coulds. But the city does own all of the land surrounding that site. So all of this is the city-owned land. And so we came up with 4 design scenarios. And over the last few days, we've been asking people which ones they prefer. There was a survey over here. But we wanted to kind of show y'all what it could be like looking at the public work yard, looking back toward Highway 90. And so we drew a rendering showing the foreground here is the public works yard. So like when you're right here, you're looking at the public works yard. And then this is looking at the McDonald's and the gas station. So you're looking back that direction along Highway 90. And the goal is to create an outdoor plaza, this landing area, so that as people are walking down and they get into Houston Square, they look down there and they see something else of importance that will continue that walk, and you start to create that linear corridor of spaces with buildings that could emulate these patterns. So this was one of our renderings we showed to do that. We're still drawing on some of these renderings. This is going to be a 3D perspective showing all of the community looking down with these various development patterns, so we can get some feedback from you all as this goes. we're next gonna start walking around and we'll go through the maps and actually, we're still taking feedback and this is not closed. All of these maps are gonna be put online. So if you have friends that were not able to make this, you can do digital, submittals online. But I wanna let you know, we should have shared this previously. The online maps will be these maps. They will not be updated. So when you see it go online, don't think that we didn't listen. We just want everyone that wasn't here to have an opportunity to chime in. And we'll come back and revise those maps, and we'll make sure to let everyone know that those maps are being revised based off of the input that we've received over the course of the project. But we will be doing that. The big next date is gonna be in August. So August the 6th through 8th, we're gonna have a code rodeo. And a code rodeo is gonna be confirmations of this. We'll come with a draft downtown plan. And we'll send this out earlier. The draft downtown plan, the draft comprehensive master plan, and the potential for the code standards for the new Unified Development Code based off of the input that we have. Y'all are gonna be able to see the meat. And a lot of people here are like, think that this planning stuff is a waste of time, but you've got to get these elements right in order to get your codes right. And creating that alignment provides the policymakers and the staff the right tools they need to do their job, so that when someone shows up, clarity is provided to the development community and the citizens trying to do improvements. Yes, ma'am.
So what's the lead-in time for receiving the code rodeo information?
We will send it out as early as possible. Let me ask you: was the lead-in time for this event early enough? Too early? Not?
I felt like it was a really good lead-in time. I got the initial email. I thought that I would do something with it. I got a reminder email, and I was like, I should put it on the calendar. And then I think I got a third kind of reminder, maybe from a neighbor, that was like, okay. So the lead-in time that I had for this was good, but I think the next one is probably going to be a little more detailed if you want to be prepared for it.
Yes.
So that's why I was just asking about the lead-in.
If it works, we usually, I think it was a month. Is that right, Amanda?
I think we gave 2 or 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Ahead
Okay,
of
so it
this.
started 3 weeks, and then it went. I feel like.
Yeah, 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
So the same kind of thing. So we would anticipate doing the same thing. We need this to be a transparent, included, process where everyone's engaged and bringing in. So yes, please share with your neighbors. This is the date. We're confirming with the city. We don't know the venue yet, and so we're going to work with the city. We've got a few ideas of venues, and so we'll work with that. Thank you. Are there any other questions before we jump into walking around the room? Yes, ma'am.
Will there still be opportunity to comment on what's in the room here over the next couple of months?
Yes, ma'am. So we're gonna put it online, and I don't know about a couple of months. We're gonna need to have a closing date, but we will post all of that online. With the next few weeks, we'll get this online in a week or two. What do you want me to say, 2 weeks?
Yeah, because it's a lot of information.
It
It
is.
takes some time.
We'll get all of this information online within 2 weeks. We'll let the city know, we'll notify the city that it is up and running, and then we can have maybe another month comment period, and that, if that's sufficient, and hopefully that should be able to capture additional data that wasn't received through this process.
Kind of a cutoff point is maybe June.
Yeah, and we'll have that, we'll make it noted on there that this comment period ends at this point. But yes, ma'am, we'll try and leave it as open as possible. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go to the map. So we're gonna have different people at different stations.